Welcome everyone to Authors Night. We're here at the Calabasas Library and the guest today is Steve Dupin, otherwise known as Stevie D.
Stevie D.
Today, Stevie.
Just Stevie.
And the
We're informal here, even though we're like, I feel like I should have a smoking jacket and a pipe.
And the fire going.
Yeah.
The Trans Am Diaries.
So far, so good.
Okay, a hillbilly's road trip from stand-up comedy to cancer and back again.
Back again.
I think the title kind of says it all.
That's it.
Your tale of a successful Kentucky-born comedian diagnosed with prostate cancer at the age of 44. That's pretty early.
That's young,
young.
yeah.
Your background, you were born in Kentucky and you consider yourself poor white trash Kentucky hillbilly?
Poor white trash hillbilly, hell-raising hillbilly.
Why do you define yourself as a hillbilly?
Well, if you're from Kentucky and I did stand-up comedy for 15 years, automatically people think you got a corncob pipe and missing some teeth. So they just call you a hillbilly.
Are you missing teeth?
They look pretty good. They look real, right?
Very good.
I got these when I moved to Calabasas. No, I have my teeth. I like to say that if you've seen Honey Boo Boo, my background is Honey Boo Boo meets Dukes of Hazzard. So, you know, I'm related to some Honey Boo Boos and I'm related to some outlaws as well. But it's an endearing term. Like, I don't like the term redneck when people say, oh, you're from Kentucky, you must be a redneck. To me, that has like racial connotations. And hillbilly is just like, no, like a redneck means like, that's not a flattering term, where hillbilly is more like fun. But
then you also use the adjectives poor white trash. Now that's,
well, that's
not
okay.
too...
Yeah, I'm proud to be from a trailer park.
Okay. Trailer, not mobile home.
Not mobile home. You know, we're fancy, double wide.
Double wide. Were you always funny?
I think so. I got a lot of paddlings in school back when the good old days when you could get paddlings in school. So I had like the record for discipline marks in high school, but I was also the class president. So I had one foot in, you know, the bad side of the tracks and one foot trying to be good. I'm torn, Karen.
But did you do it as a defense mechanism, or was this just your bubbling personality that you were humorous?
That's a good question. I think it was probably a defense mechanism because I grew up without a father and a single mom, so I always felt like a little insecure, and I was a skinny little honky. And I went to tougher schools, and so I had to start being funny to keep from getting beat up so much. And then in high school, I just became an all-out maniac, just getting in trouble all the time and being funny and class clown. But I made a career out of it, so it was okay.
But you put down bologna as a trailer food almost, because you were too poor, that's what you ate. But bologna, kids always still eat some bologna sandwiches, well, not as much as
fancy Italian deli, but we had
we don't do it on white bread.
Yeah, we had on white bread, and I give, you know,
and you hillbilly had mayo.
Yeah, hillbilly preparation, cooking tips. How you got to cut the sides so it doesn't bubble up so much. But every day for lunch, my mom would make me a bologna sandwich. And then one day I was around 12 or 13 years old, and I'm eating a bologna sandwich, and I looked at it and said, this is poor people food. It's like I never want to eat bologna as long as I live because it makes me feel like I'm poor. So to this day, I haven't had a bologna sandwich.
I grew up on bologna and salami sandwiches.
Well, there's still good stuff. I'm also 95% vegetarian now since the cancer, so that's a whole different story.
Okay.
I think the bologna caused my cancer. We're onto something here, Karen.
Tell me about your family. You said you had a mother. And you were brought up by your mother. Did you have other relatives? And you got married?
I used to say in my act, I grew up in a house with a single mom and 3 sisters, so I wasn't good at like football and stuff, but I can do a mean French braid.
You were what, French braiding?
Yeah. I had sisters.
Ah, so you did the French braid.
Yeah, I did the French braiding and the blow dry, and I said it was up to me to be the man of the house, except we already had a man of the house, my sister Donna. And Donna would come in my room in the morning and kick the door open and say, Stevie, Mama said get up, but first we go and wrestle, try and get past me. And I'd hit her with my blow dryer.
Well,
these are the jokes, Karen.
I'm rarely at a loss for words, I must tell you.
I'm a crazy person. I warned you when I came in. Okay,
but you weren't. Why do I have here Texas?
I don't know. I probably have outstanding warrants, and they heard I was going to be on the show, and the authorities called.
Well, I know that you did come to the Los Angeles area, so that I'm correct in.
I did. 2 weeks after high school, I left Kentucky, which was, I was encouraged to do by the authorities. And I went straight to Panama City Beach, called the Redneck Riviera.
Where is that?
It's on the Gulf Coast of Florida.
Okay.
And there was a big beach club there, and I was like the DJ. And I felt I wanted to keep pursuing my entertainment bug that I had in me to be in the limelight, because ever since I was a kid, while the kids would be in the schoolyard playing football or on their bikes or whatever, I'd be watching variety shows. So I loved all the variety shows in the 70s, even Sonny and Cher and Carol Burnett and all of that. I just dreamed, how do I get to a place that makes television? And down in Panama City, I became like the host of all the spring break madness. And so the next logical step to me was Hollywood. So I threw an Elvis King Creole movie poster in the back of my car and 2 suitcases and headed west.
Alone?
I'm still here, alone, yeah.
But when did you begin? So you have always thought of becoming a comic or something in the entertainment field?
I wanted to be like a Dick Clark. I wanted to host a show.
That's too sedate.
Well, he was kind of mellow. I want to be like, not a Dick Clark on Quaaludes. I want to be like a crazy hillbilly Dick Clark. I wanted to be like funny, and so I thought stand-up comedy was a natural progression. So I started doing the little dives around all over LA, and it took about 5 years to get my bearings and start getting, spots in the legitimate comedy clubs.
I mean, this is what I'm wondering. How do you start becoming a stand-up comic? Do you just go around telling people I'm funny as hell? Or do you go to clubs and volunteer to do for nothing?
You go to open mics, and like
Open mics, that's what I want.
every coffee shop in LA, every bookstore, the 2 that are remaining, they usually have like a comedy night. So bars will have comedy nights, any little dives, pretty much any place, a business. One night, a laundromat. Literally, there's like Soaps and Suds comedy night. So you just go anywhere you can go. I'd look on the LA Weekly. I would just show up in all these places in Venice, Santa Monica, Hollywood for their open mics. And you sit there for hours to get 3 minutes. And you get your 3 minutes, then you go to 5 minutes, and you get your 10 minutes. And eventually you start getting, hopefully, bookings. And hopefully people laugh eventually.
How did you get your break to becoming a paid entertainer?
The Comedy Store gave me my first legitimate break. I had my own show on Friday nights in the belly room at the Comedy Store. And from there, I went to the Laugh Factory, and then I had my own night where I get to bring my own comics. And it would be comics anywhere. Everyone from Chris Rock to Dane Cook, Whitney Cummings, you name it, performed. On my Thursday night became like a crazy night. So the place would be packed. And this was several years ago as the internet was starting to break with MySpace and Facebook was just starting out. And I sensed that comedy was changing. Comedy was becoming, you had to be faster because people now have ADD. And they're sitting in the audience and people start holding up their cell phones and videotaping you. And if you're boring, they'll give you a couple minutes and they start checking their status of their Facebook and their MySpace. So I wanted to have like a rock and roll vibe at my show. So I wanted the comics to be fast and furious. I had a DJ, and that gave me the idea to do the Rock Stars of Comedy, which became a successful DVD that I'd produced. And so I put comics like Whitney Cummings and Steve Byrne and Brian Callen and all these people that were doing very well. I put them all in, and we had a diverse audience, but it was the same energy. And we rocked it. We became rock stars. Poor rock stars.
But in the midst of everything, you got a personal you became a personal trainer as well.
I did.
How did that occur?
Well, I talk about in my book, my dad died of a heart attack at 40. So,
That should put you on an alert.
Yeah, so in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't have much time. And I read something once where Walt Disney went to a fortune teller and told him he was going to die at 38. So it became like obsessive workaholic. So he would show up at the animation studios at night and spy on his artists and wanted people to work at this breakneck pace. And that's kind of, I thought, I don't have too much up here, but I have a serious work ethic. And health-wise, I thought it was in my DNA that I didn't have much time. So I wanted to become as healthy as possible because I was a skinny kid. So the day I hit Los Angeles, I went to a gym, started getting into fitness, and became a certified trainer. So I'd have my days free. I'd work for myself, my own training business, and be able to go on auditions and then do my comedy at night.
Do you still do training?
I still have a training business, and I still consult, as much as possible, and whatever pays the bills. So I still have my training business and do all kinds of stuff. I shine shoes, so let me.
Don't need any here. Did
Not
you
this
bring
way.
your shoe shine kit?
I did. I have that right outside. Made $17. It's the holidays and.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. I'm from Kentucky. We barely wear shoes.
Well, how did you finally settle down with a wife and a family?
I got very lucky. I married
Yes.
I married a judge's daughter, beautiful, smart. We actually met at the Comedy Store. So, and she was like the last person. She hated comedy clubs, and a mutual friend brought her to my show on a Friday night, and immediately I saw this tall, beautiful, my type exactly, and she looked like she didn't want to be there. So, as a comic, and we're insecure, we fixate on the person that doesn't want to be there. So, if it was a room full of people laughing, the one person that's kind of rolling her eyes, I'm like, she's going to be the queen of my double wide one day. And that's exactly my pickup line. I went up to her and said, "You're going to be the queen of my double wide." She said, "What's a double wide?" I said, we got a lot of time to learn about that. So that was 15 years ago.
Still together?
Still together. She still puts up with me. She says she has 3 kids now, me and the other 2.
And your family accepted a stand-up comic?
Well,
Judges can be a little austere.
he was cool. They're Irish, and he pulled himself up by his bootstraps. My father-in-law, I have a great deal of respect for him. And so he and I hit it off right away. He was working class, and the mom, I love her mom to death now, my mother-in-law, but she was a little, tougher cookie in the beginning.
Your wife?
My wife's mom.
Oh, your wife.
I drove a Trans Am and an 8-track, not exactly, what they had in mind. I brought him a 6-pack, and 3 were already gone by the time I got there. So.
But in the middle of all this fun and enjoyment and humor and life at the top with all these interesting, frothy parts of life, you found out at age 44 that you had prostate cancer.
And I was just saying this in Chicago the other day in front of the Us Two organization, how it's usually our wives, the women, push men to go get checked. Because even if we suspect something, and I should have known better, personal training certifications, very healthy, eat organically, I felt something was going on.
Do you have symptoms?
I had symptoms, going to the restroom a lot at night, stuff like that. I would see commercials for prostate, problems. I thought, maybe it's my prostate. So I specifically went in, and I think I was 42 at the time actually, and said, will you check my prostate? Do I have an enlarged prostate? I wasn't thinking cancer. And so they checked my prostate and didn't do the PSA.
I was going to ask because now the protocol is not to test you so young.
Yeah, the protocol, and it's been when you turn 50, men should start getting checked. So I don't know if they just looked at my stats. They asked a few stock questions. Anyone in my family had a history of prostate cancer, which none to my knowledge. And they looked at my age and,
Dismissed you probably.
dismissed me. Get out of here. You're drinking a lot of water. That's why you're going to the bathroom. And then 2 years later, I'm with a different insurance company who just routinely, as a physical, have you come back for the blood work. And it came back, my PSA level was very high. And my oncologist said, yeah, that was definitely prostate cancer. You've had this. And if you had waited 2 more years, it would have been too late. So they found it kind of by mistake 2 years later through the PSA. And I say the silver lining is in that 2 years window, my daughter was born. So if they would have found it the first time, shop would have been closed. So now my daughter was born in that window, and her name happens to be Faith. And get the Kleenexes, okay. So I'm blessed.
I'm glad you can laugh because
absolutely.
It's a situation that I think, 70% of men get it?
Yeah, in my case,
in
it's
their
very
later years, or a high
the later
number.
years, and when the average age, like the way I found out, and I talk about in the book, is the urologist didn't know me. So to me, it could have been standard operating procedure for him, but he called me pretty nonchalantly. I remember exactly. It was a Tuesday at 4:58. I can tell you what street I was on, the temperature, and when he said, "Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, your results came back, and yes, you do have cancer," about to crash. And he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going on vacation tomorrow for 3 weeks. But when I get back, we'll talk about your
No,
options.
you can't wait 3 weeks.
And he hung up.
No.
And I'm 5 minutes from home, and I have a baby at home that's 3 months old, and my wife, and I got to tell them I have cancer. And so he said, stop by the lab tomorrow, and I'm trying to call him back, and he has a tea time and whatever. And so I go to pick up my lab results, and the first thing I see when I look in the folder is average age 72, life expectancy 5 years. So I'm having a heart attack. So I closed the folder, and I said, I don't think this applies to me. And so then there's a million options out there. So in that 3-week window while he was gone, I found out about pellets and radiation and tons of other options.
Robotic surgery.
Robotics. And I got to Dr. David Agus, who's like one of the top oncologists in the world. There was Lance Armstrong's doctor and Michael Milkins, and he recommended I find this one particular doctor. So then it became a cat and mouse. Is that right? When you're like chasing someone? So yeah, it became like a cat and mouse game of me going to 5 different Kaisers, stalking this guy to try to find him. And I did, and that's the one that did the surgery. And
How did you find him?
I stalked him. I didn't take no for an answer. I showed up at his front door in the Trans Am, and he said, okay, I'll do it. Get away from my house. No, he was, I kept getting referrals, and one person I would be connected to, like a therapist, physical therapist, and then this person, and this urologist knew him, and I would look online, and I'd be like a step behind him. I'd go to the Hollywood Kaiser. He had just left to go to Riverside Kaiser. So finally I found him in Riverside. And I said, see this picture? See these 2 little kids? See my wife? I'm young, and he decided to do it. Because robotics, you have to be accepted. They don't take everyone. It's an expensive operation. They only did it at 2 Kaisers in Southern California. So a lot of people went through robotics. So luckily they accepted me, and here I am.
Well, let's learn more about the surgery, if you don't mind talking about
Absolutely.
it,
Good times.
after our break. So stay with us for Stevie D and the Trans Am Diaries.
Where is this guy? So thirsty.
I hear he travels from the north.
Look!
That one's really dry.
LA is in a drought, yet over half of our drinking water is being used for landscaping. But it doesn't have to be that way. Just 1 inch of rain can yield thousands of gallons of water for use in landscaping and saves drinking water for drinking. Rain barrels, cisterns, and curb cuts are just a few ways to save water and energy. For more, visit LADWP and the Bay Foundation online.
It's Authors Night, and we're back with Stevie D and Trans Am Diaries. And we've taken this Hillbillies Road from the stand-up comedy, and we are at the cancer.
We're at the cancer road.
And you had robotic surgery.
I did. So as I was saying, robotics is pretty new. The Da Vinci robotics, I didn't know anything about this, became an expert in that 3-week window while my urologist was, in Cancun or wherever. So I was told by a leading pathologist in town who called me and was giving me advice and talking me off the ledge, check out this robotics. And Dr. David Agus actually gave me 2 names to get to. So if you can't get to this guy, get to this guy. Well, I got to the first guy, he didn't do robotics. He was kind of semi-retired, and he was overseeing the urology department at Kaiser, but he didn't do robotics. And from what I was learning, robotics was the way to go. It's supposedly more nerve-sparing, and the robot actually punctures you 5 times, and the doctor's over on the robot on the computer with his hands in gloves. The screen's magnified something like 10 times what it would be if he were just looking in you. I didn't know what his prescription on his glasses were, if they were out of date, if he was hungover, if his eyes were blurry, but I wanted magnified, nerves. So I did the robotics.
Was that
Do you want to see my
painful?
scar? No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Was it painful?
It was painful. What you don't expect is
I mean,
afterwards.
during the process is it painful?
The process wasn't, but the recovery, and they moved everything around in there. So you're,
What do you mean they move it around?
you know, your organs and stuff, and they're putting stuff on tables, and
And then
going
put it
out to
back,
lunch.
I hope.
Yeah, they're putting them back. I don't know if they put them back in the right place because ever since then my stomach's been a little messed up. But they, when you sneeze and you have holes all in you and drains and catheters and all this sexy stuff, it feels like there's a grenade going off in your stomach.
Did you have all that, the tubes and everything in your stomach afterwards as well?
No, but I had a
Because there are
drain.
surgeries that keep things in there.
Yeah, no, but I had a drain for quite a while, a couple of weeks and all of that, and check fluid levels, and the fluid should be this color. And I talk about in my book how you become like a nurse in 10 minutes when they want to release you from the hospital as soon as possible, is what they do now in about 24 hours, unless you got the big bucks and you can go to a rehab place for, a
You went
couple
right
of weeks.
home?
I went right home, and we had a new baby that was waking up, every
Who
15
took care
minutes.
of you?
Big Papa took care of me. No, I'm kidding. Pretty much me. My wife did what she could, but also when we got home, we had bad rainstorms. So our place, we had a condo, and it started flooding. So I got up, shifted to the door slowly, and I told my wife, get me some duct tape. And she's like, what? I was like, get me the duct tape. And I sealed us in for like 3 days. I taped the door, and the water didn't come in. So I'm like a hillbilly MacGyver. It works. If you're getting floods, try it at home, guys.
But how was the recuperation period as opposed to the other techniques that they use?
The recuperation period is supposed to be a little better. Still about the same for like 6 months. You're not supposed to lift more than 5 pounds. You got to be careful. I thought it was pretty good to go about 3 or 4 weeks afterwards. I go to the gym, I get on the bike, and as soon as I get a recumbent bike, and as soon as my leg comes up like this, I feel like someone stabbed me with a knife.
Didn't they say wait a while before you go to physical exercise?
They probably did, but I don't really listen to those people. I was a trainer, and I thought I knew what I was
can-
doing. And I lost about 15 pounds also. So I'm in the gym, and I'm lifting my 5 pounds, and then you get in this macho gear kicks in when we go to the gym. It's like, oh, I'm going to take it easy. I can lift more than that guy. So then you start grabbing the big weights. So I said I want to have a T-shirt made up that said, I'm not a wussy, I just had cancer.
You didn't do that, though.
I didn't do that, but I said it in the book. But I did probably lift more than I should have lifted. It's supposed to be 3 months before you go back to any normal activity, and I was back in the saddle, so to speak, with a pillow in the saddle in about a month or so. I make Karen laugh. I make Karen laugh.
Well, as you say, when you gave me your book,
Karen, it's awesome. Is that Jack Daniels? What is that? It's water. Calabasas finest.
laughter heals. If you could, I mean, either you're going to cry or you're going to laugh through these things.
Yeah.
And it's one or the other. It doesn't seem to be any even keel.
Yeah. For me, like I said, I didn't go to any support groups, and
Well,
humor has always been, like you said, my defense mechanism. So I wanted to write a funny book, but I also wanted it to be heartwarming in parts, and I wanted it to be a roller coaster. So
was
I just
that your
used
way of coping?
my
Saying,
way of
I'm
coping.
going to write
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I thought my life was just I was mad more than anything that I got cancer. I thought I'd been through so much. I worked so hard. I'm healthy. I got a new family. Too young to get this old man's disease. So I started writing. And
This is your first attempt at writing.
first attempt, yeah. I can't even read a book. How can I write a book? But no, I do read a lot. Don't tell people I read that. It's not good for my image. But I do read a lot. And so I had read Lance Armstrong's book. I read David Egger's book, who wrote a book, Heartbreaking Mind of a Staggering Genius. And he was kind of being, using a sense of humor when both of his parents died of cancer in the same year. And he became like the caretaker of a 12-year-old, his brother, and he said he would go to parks and he felt like he was a member of NAMBLA, like, a pervert with this little boy. And so people would start asking him so much, how'd your parents die? And he'd say cancer, and immediately people, and they want to hug you. So he just started making up stories. It was a plane crash and, whatever. And he would just start, my mom was tied to a train and my dad was trying to rescue her. The dam's in the distress, just make up crazy stories as a way to deal with this. So I thought, I just want the cancer to be a narrative through my crazy stories. So I didn't write my book in chronological order. I wrote
You went in and out of your cancer and your life. So
Yeah,
every
exactly.
time it got a little
too heavy.
heavy,
I was like, let me lighten things
There's
up with
some
a
light,
crazy
yeah.
story. Yeah.
and then when they got too funny,
Bring them on down a little bit. Bring them, yeah.
bring them down.
Yeah. Give them a chance to breathe, catch their breath. But I wanted it to be a little bit of everything. I wanted it to be heartwarming, but also I wanted it to be a dude's book. Because guys are afraid to pick up a book about prostate cancer.
Well, it's like we discussed off camera. It's not discussed as much as the women with the breast cancer. You don't have the breast cancer women have, I think, the pink ribbons
Exactly.
or the red ribbons, and they have sales at Macy's. And what do the guys do?
The guys don't have anything. Good luck, dude. I hope it's been a good run. And I was just saying that at the Us Two organization, which is the prostate cancer organization. I was in Chicago last week speaking, and I said, we either need to team up and piggyback on some breast cancer organization, because it's usually the wife that pushes us to go to the doctor in the first place. Because as men, we usually say, we don't want to know what's going on, but early detection's everything. You can get in there detected early, and I was very lucky, but like my doctor said, 2 more years would have been too late. And even though that I was involved in fitness and ate healthy, and I knew something was going on, I didn't really pursue it as much as I should. I didn't go in, because we should be our own advocate. We should go in and say, no, I didn't get that PSA I heard about. Why didn't you do a PSA?
I'm wondering why he didn't do a PSA.
I think it's to save $100 from the lab, and they probably look at the stats and look at my age. My doctor said I was the youngest patient he had had with prostate cancer. In Chicago, I met another guy that had it the same age as me, so I wasn't too happy he beat my record, but, we can share.
Okay, so you would recommend robotic.
I recommend robotics, and mostly I recommend men go get checked earlier. Don't wait till you're 50. Robotics is the way to go as far as nerve sparing. A lot of people try, being in the health world, a lot of people are recommending alternative medicines and, hemp and this and that and wait and see and all that. And because of my age, we had to be aggressive as possible. So my doctor said, we're not going to mess around, and we're going to go in, and we're going to go in quickly and knock this out.
Well, the worst words you can ever be forced to say is, I wish I had seen to this earlier.
Yeah. Just sitting on a panel where men did that. And then the PSA levels went to 15 or whatever, and the cancer started to spread. So just be aggressive as possible. Go in there and get your PSA, and early detection is everything, and take care of business.
So
Something's
where
in
are
the
you?
air. I don't know what. There's no one been in my family that we know of that's had prostate cancer.
It's always a first.
It could be something environmental. It could be, who knows? I'll never know.
Or people died young, or you don't know whatever. And people years ago would never tell you exactly what they died from. Or
Exactly.
euphemisms for something else.
As we talked about, it's always been like a stigma attached for men to even talk about prostate cancer. I think it takes away our manhood somehow, or it's just not a subject we want to open up about. And I wanted to break those walls down.
Well, you are very open.
Well, thank you. Little pour salt on the wound sometimes.
Somebody's got to be honest about it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to break those walls down. I talk about in the book, at the time, I'd worked on Rockstars of Comedy for 2 years. When the DVD came out, it did very well, and it enabled me to then get a production deal to go to networks and then pitch it as a TV show. And we attached Tommy Lee from Motley Crue as like the host, and it was a big deal. At the time, I didn't tell anybody that I had prostate cancer. So
Well, it's hard to work into the conversation.
it's hard to work in, and also I didn't want to make it look like there's a chink in my armor. Like, I didn't want the executive to go, wait, you got prostate cancer, and how can you be a rock star? You got an old man's disease, and will you even be here when we start filming the show? So I didn't even mention that to anyone when I was going through it. But now they know.
How are you today?
I think I'm good. I'm still crazy, as you can see, probably even more so. I appreciate life. I try not to let things bother me as much anymore, but just appreciative to be here, and now I know always get a checkup.
Do you still go for regular checkups on a periodic basis?
Yeah, it's 6 months for 5 years. I go in for the PSA, and then I see my oncologist annually. And the last time I saw him, I handed him the book. And I told him a year ago, I'm going to give you a book. Do you want to proofread the chapter about you? It's all praise. And he said, no, I trust you. And now I'm getting sued. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it's noteworthy that you put it in writing, because by the time somebody said, well, I know somebody who had this, and by the time it travels to the person, it gets garbled. This is direct, it's in print, they can read it, and they can see that you came back.
Oh, thank you. One of the best reviews I received was from a guy by the name of Robert Warren Hess, who started the Prostate Cancer Awareness Foundation. And he had, high remarks for the book. He said it's a coming-of-age book every father should give to their son when they turn 16. I was like, whoa, okay.
Well, now that you know it's in your family, everybody in your family should be tested.
Absolutely.
Do you still see your family back in Kentucky? And I don't know, I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
Texas here.
I still see them. They don't get out much. They're all homebodies. But my mom, the only time she's ever been on a plane was my wedding and right after the birth of both of my kids. So
You have a girl and a boy?
I have a girl and a boy.
Well,
This is our library. We come here all the time. You can get 15 books here. Did you know that? Saves me a fortune.
15?
15 children's books. Yeah.
Do you read children's books?
Yeah, I've been reading to my son ever since he was about a year
That's
old.
beautiful.
Now he's in the
That's
first
very
grade.
important.
Every night. That's our ritual. I let them each pick a book, and I read them a book. And now my son, the scary thing is now he can read. And not to brag for a second, but last Friday at his school, he was awarded the top honor in first grade.
That's
He's
great.
like always striving to be his best, and he's, level 3 reading in the first grade, and whatever the circles, the levels, So the scary thing is the other day when we're driving, he picks up my book in the back seat and starts reading it. And I said, whoa, give me that book. And so he just picked it up right before I came here, and he flipped it open, and he said, Daddy, who's this, you and this guy? And he goes, oh, that's Tommy Lee. I said, how did you know that? And he goes, it says, I go, oh, give me, because now I'm afraid, there's some words in there that aren't appropriate.
But what are you doing now, funny-wise?
Funny-wise, I'm pitching reality shows. I host a weekly internet talk show called the Stevie Show, because I'm not too smart and I couldn't think of any other title. But it's on Actors Entertainment, and it's streaming, and all the shows live there. I've done it for over a year. I call it an inspirational show, but we don't want to hit people over the head with the message. And it's people that have overcome whatever obstacles in their life to become rock stars in their field. So I've had like Troy Ladd, who's like the hot rod builder of the world. Hot rod builder of the world. And he has a shop called Hollywood Hot Rods. I've had a lot of my comic friends and rock star friends. And it's 30 minutes live, and we just act crazy, and it looks like we're in a double wide trailer. And we drink out of mason jars. And sometimes our drinks are actually spiked.
That's kind of hillbilly.
Yeah, that is hillbilly. And I'm speaking. I travel. Just got back from, like I said, Chicago. So I'm speaking now and hopefully motivating people and finding humor in the situations to overcome adversities, and, not be ashamed if you have prostate or colon cancer, or, take care of your health.
So you've mainstreamed.
I've sold out, is what you're saying, Karen, right? I got to go get arrested after this. Losing my street cred.
Do you still have your Trans Am?
I do not have my Trans Am. I came out on the street one day, and it was sitting on the sidewalk, smashed. And I said, I'm sure I've parked on the sidewalk some, but last night I was sober. And I'm convinced my wife hired someone to smash into my Trans Am. And so I was told it's out. So I want to start a Kickstarter fund if you want to give me another. Burt Reynolds just sold the Bandit for like $300,000. He did. I bid $200, but I was easily outbid just to get the action going. But I'll get another one. I said I can't wait to get my own sitcom, so I can get 15 different Trans Ams, one in each color, and just line them up.
So you're hoping for the sitcom.
I'm not an actor. I'm hoping for, to parlay my show into a cable show, or maybe even an internet show, because TV's becoming, passe. Everyone's watching the shows on the media devices now.
Yes, they are.
I think like 65% of audiences now of the youth under 25 watch all of their content on their devices. And that's one to grow on, kids.
I find even though I'm a Luddite and don't like anything like that, that when I'm on my iPad, I spend half the time watching things.
Yeah.
Not just communicating, but watching videos and
I would still like to have an actual
News.
television show because it's always been my dream since I was 5 years old to have a show with a live audience and have it. Like when I wrote the book, a lot of my comic friends write ebooks and they publish their own ebooks. Because when I started writing the book, 60% of people were still preferring a physical book. And now it's the other way. 60% of the people read ebooks, read the books on Kindle. But I wanted a tangible book in my hand.
well, you have your dream,
Well, thank you. I can
and
stop now. I can quit. I can go back to Kentucky.
no, but I'm going to ask you, instead of my closing words, for you to use the closing words for this show that you used at the end of your book
The quote.
from the Brazilian author Paulo Coelho.
Do you have it in front of you? Oh, here's a book. Hold
Here's
on.
a book.
No, I quoted several people, and I just used one in Chicago, and I don't want to confuse them.
You can use a couple of.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, yeah. So here's the quote I used. How do you pronounce his name?
I don't know. Is
Say it again?
wrong?
I don't know. You're asking me? I'm still working on
Coelho?
English. Yeah.
Pablo.
Okay. Coelho?
Pablo.
Coelho? Is that correct?
It's a good quote.
I just read this
The
quote.
quote's in
I loved
English.
it. I love the quote. It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. There
And
we
with
go.
that, I say thank you.
Thank you so much
You
for
made
having me.
Our show very interesting.
All right. I hope
I
that's good.
appreciate your
Interesting.
coming.
I hope good.
And I know our TV audience will come here and check out your book.
Great. I hope so.
So I say thank you again.
Thank you for having me, Karen.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Media Operations Department. And thank you, City of Calabasas Library.